City Infrastructure Committee dating held of, what's the date? The 10th of February, and I declare this meeting open at 10 o'clock. I would like to advise attendees in the room that this meeting is being webcast and audio recorded. We have no leave of absence today, which is great. Everyone's on deck. Councillor Fraser is Teams in. We've just got some technical issues, so he'll let us know once he's in the meeting. We'll now move to confirmation of previous committee meeting minutes. There'll be a motion up on the board. Once you read the motion, if I can have a mover. Thank you, Mayor Raven. Do I have a seconder? It's just the minutes. Thank you, Councillor Stamp. Does any councillor wish to speak to the motion? Thank you. I now open the floor to vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous by everyone in the room. Yes, sweet. We'll now move to declarations of conflicts of interest. I now refer to that. Do any councillors wish to declare a conflict of interest today? There being none, I now refer to the reports on today's agenda. We have one report today, which is a confidential report for a water service delivery business process review outcomes. Does any councillor wish to move in the confidential? Councillor Lane, do I have a seconder? Councillor Jackson, all those in favour? Has been carried unanimously. Where's our thumbs up guy? So when the motion's up there, if anyone would like to read it and move it for me. Thank you, councillor Lane. Seconded by...
Point of order. We didn't vote to come out of confidential. You just moved it.
Oh. I had all the power there. I just moved it myself and didn't need a seconder. Do you want to get back into that? Yeah.
Yeah, just vote.
Yeah, let's just vote. Everyone happy to come into confidential? Thank you, Mr Mayor. Stifler for the rules. Councillor Lane has moved the motion. Do I have a seconder? Councillor St Ledger. All those in favour? That has been carried. Oh, I'm going to do it. This is Councillor Fraser. How do you vote? Councillor Fraser.
In the message that I'm for.
For beautiful, mate. Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Fraser's for. Do we have any GB for Jared Briley while he's here? No, mate. Lucky day. Thank you. That concludes the agenda for today. Does anyone have any general business for the Executive General Manager, Mr. Darryl Riley? Councillor Harrimeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Something really exciting is happening on the border of the best division, Division 8, and another division, Division 5. And that's the...
Not even the second best. Not even the second best. Savage,
And that's
Councillor
the
Harrimeyer.
upgrade of the Bumstead Road, Julie Street intersection. So this is fantastic news. This intersection needs to be upgraded. And just this morning, there were teams out on site with a digger, getting the site ready. And it's really fantastic to see the communities behind it. The community has passed on their support to me around the massive LED signs that were put up to notify them that there will be some inconveniences, that the upgrade is coming, and even better, that it's actually getting done. So that's great news. What's not so great news is there's a massive development front across Parkridge and Logan Reserve, and the council, as well as the government, has approved massive building, whether it be houses, industrial estates, schools, shops, and there's long-term plans to put in major road upgrades, like on Parkridge Road and School Road, massive widening projects, and you can see on site that council has required developers to surrender land outside their site so one day the road can be widened. But until that long-term plan comes into place, there's an issue. And that issue is that the houses are there, the schools are there, the shops are there, but the upgraded road isn't there to connect them and allow pedestrians to walk safely around their neighbourhood. So we have these islands of estates where people have to take dangerous paths just to get to core services like schools and shops. So what I think council should do, and I've identified funding in the budget to do it, is put in emergency safety access ways on the existing road reserve that council owns so we can make sure pedestrians can at least get around safely. Now, I consulted the community through the community meetings and mobile offices and did up a map of where they're really needed. I sent it to the CEO and the Director of the Roads Department requesting a quote on how much it would cost to put in these emergency access ways to make sure people can get the bare minimum, which is get around their neighbourhood safely. Now, I requested updates. That was a number of months ago. I've constantly requested updates, and the best information I've got is a quote back for a heavily over-engineered footpath that isn't feasible to do across the whole area within the current budget. So what I'm asking for is a clear update on when those emergency access ways can at least get a quote, so then we can present it to council and see if we can get the support of council to put funding towards it. My question is for the Director of the Roads Department. When do you think we can get that quote for those areas in Parkridge and Logan Reserve down to Chambers Flat near the new school to make sure we can get some emergency safety access ways? When are we going to get the quote?
Through you, Mr. Chair. I am aware of the work that we've done previously to look at the opportunity to put in gravel pathways for a lot of those areas which are in constrained areas on existing road reserves where we have table drains and the like, which actually add to those concerns. So certainly for majority of those areas, I think we did provide quotes for those. You have asked us to really look at those. I suspect I need to come and have a talk to you in regards to that.
Yeah, the quotes aren't to specification. So the specification was emergency access way, utilising most of the same elevations so we can get kilometres of safe access ASAP. Now, the quotes provided didn't accomplish that. They were over-engineered and they weren't feasible to apply in the areas in which it was specified. So, similar to the project that we did for the new Park Ridge State School on Park Ridge Road, where there was an emergency situation and council managed to get an emergency safe access way within a month or so from work starting. We need to apply that same methodology across all of these areas, and on that square meterage cost basis, it's feasible. The quotes we received were not on that same square meterage basis and uses materials that aren't the same as that emergency access way, which means it's not feasible, which means we're going to have to wait years for safe pedestrian access in an area that needs it now. So can we get a quote for what was asked for?
I will need to come and meet with you in regards to that matter. The quotes that were provided for a lot of that work was for similar materials, so it was for gravel treatments, rather than us going to a full concrete footpath, which we would do as our standard arrangement. For a lot of the road reserve that we've been talking about in those quotes that we provided, though, the road reserves are very narrow, and there are existing table drains and the likes on the road corridor itself, particularly running longitudinally, which we didn't have at the location on Park Ridge Road near the school, which we're talking about. To be able to facilitate those outcomes, it does mean that there is significantly more earthworks and in some of those locations more drainage work that we actually have to do to actually create a location where we can actually put the path itself. So I'm happy to come and have a talk to you about each of those locations and to actually bring the prices which were provided to you previously and run through those with you.
Yeah, I'm happy to go offline about it, but the facts of the case is that the per square meterage cost is not the same. So that project that was done on Park Ridge Road had those same challenges. There was issues with elevation, there was a waterway, there were major issues, and it took a period of time to look at the different options and get a solution that could actually get built ASAP. We should apply that same methodology and that same common sense approach towards all of the areas in this growth front, because the current attitude of approving developments and then waiting for a road that is in the long-term plan isn't feasible. So I'm happy to look at the quotes again, but it won't change the numbers. So either council needs to front up more money or we need to get a solution that council's comfortable with. But I look forward to talking more, but this is an urgent situation and we need to make sure pedestrians have safe access ASAP.
I know it's GB, it's just a question for the director. Local infrastructure money provides footpaths. If you do an emergency access, which I'm guessing is gravel or bitumen, so where does that funding come from? Does that still come from local infrastructure money supported by council or?
At the moment, the only funding location for footpath works is from the local infrastructure program. So yes, that is where that would have to be funded from as well.
Emergency works. Which is why you want to bang for buck.
Yeah, that's my approach. So there's the same amount of money applied through the local infrastructure program for each division across the city. And Division 8 has these growth fronts that are disconnected, and what the community is calling for is safe pedestrian access. So we have a funding source there ready to go. Let's utilise it. Let's deliver something using that funding that the community wants.
Question, this is a bit random question for the plan chair or the mayor. With the LGIP money, because of the amount of growth front that Councillor Herremont has got, which has got more growth front than anywhere else in the city, and that's where some of the LGIP money comes from, could LGIP money be activated to help with some of these issues that the councillor has? Because there's more development in Division 8 than anywhere.
I asked Councillor Stemp if she wanted to respond. She said I'd probably have more experience. So there's been other instances in debate where you've tried to use LGIP money to bring forward a footpath before, hey, near the shopping centre. Is that right?
No, look,
Didn't work?
look,
Yeah, so
that was lip, not LGIP.
yeah, we tried to. The Councillor Heremiah and I have tackled this problem before with LGIP when we know that there's an ultimate road design that does have footpath built into it, but because there's no intention of delivering the ultimate road yet for a whole bunch of reasons, then including funding not being available, then the question is, can you just deliver the ultimate design footpath? Because we know the design of the road, we already have the road reserve. Is that something that you've looked into here, Director, or is this purely trying to get the most efficient, soonest possible emergency footpath equivalent as possible?
There's probably two aspects to that. So funding which we collect under the local government infrastructure plan is for trunk infrastructure. That can include footpath on those trunk networks that we're talking about, but the funding is for the ultimate configuration. So we don't have access to that funding to be able to do temporary or interim works. It needs to actually be the ultimate upgrade, which would tie with that. For a significant number of the locations that we have looked at, where we're pushing back into some of those locations, we don't yet have all of the road reserve. So some of those will still have requirements for us to actually obtain more road reserve. Where we see road reserve come for trunk purposes, if there is development directly adjoining those roads, then there is an offset that's provided to those developers for the cost of the land that they actually contribute as part of that. Where we actually see the rest of the corridor that we need to acquire, it is actually the LGIP funding ultimately which will allow us to buy the road reserve for the ultimate upgrade of the corridor. So in short, where we're doing emergency works or things which are sacrificial in the short term, LGIP is not a funding source that we can actually draw upon based on the conditions that are attached to that funding based on how we receive it for trunk upgrades.
Understood, but in places where you've got the whole road reserve already, you could use it to build ultimate design footpaths and just link the dots with emergency connections?
If we could build the path without it having to be removed to build the road, then there would be potential for that. That is particularly difficult. As you would imagine, for a lot of those roads, we see stormwater infrastructure having to be built. We see a lot of times where we're doing early works where we're actually looking to relocate water mains, where we actually have to relocate Energex and those sorts of things. So the chances that we can do a lot of that work, which would not be sacrificial in a major upgrade, is limited, but is certainly something that I'm happy to have a look at.
I know in my previous life as Division 5 councillor, there were areas that had gone with table drains, with open cut drains that had on 2nd Avenue, that had gone a long time without any footpaths, and I was told repeatedly that we couldn't do it, and then miraculously, with a bit of push and some enthusiasm, we found a way to do it, because we realised that it was going to be so long before those curb and channel got installed that we couldn't ask people to wait another 20 years for kids to be able to have a safe way to ride their bikes home and scooters and whatnot. So I guess it's just applying that same methodology here, but it did have to be funded through LIP, and it was quite expensive, like per square metre, because of the crossing of the table drains in multiple locations. So if there's a way to find an efficient solution that incorporates some LGIP, that would be amazing, because I think while LIP is extensive, it gets chewed up very quickly when you're talking about $1,000 a linear metre for sacrificial works. And it sounds like you're talking about a lot more than 100 or 1,000 linear metres. You're trying to cover significant parts
About
of
2 k's.
2 kilometres. So 2 years of LIP on sacrificial works is a lot of money to put aside.
Probably just in closing to that, I want to be really clear. I'm not opposed to us actually providing pathways for the community in advance. That is not a fundamental premise that's sitting behind this. It is around how we do that in a financially secure way with funding that we can identify to do that. So, certainly happy to have those discussions.
Completely understood, and I know that Councillor Heremiah in particular has a lot of pressure coming from schools. So does Councillor Hall with the new school for his area as well. And I've been engaging with the Education Minister and their infrastructure team in the department around how they could better support us by actually building footpaths as part of their school infrastructure, because at the moment they only go to their boundary and then they leave the rest of the council to deal with, which isn't really fair given that we didn't plan for or collect infrastructure charges from a school being built. So, yeah.
This is the first time GB sparked such a chat. It is GB, but so if there's questions that, but Councillor Bradley had a hand up next. So Councillor Bradley, do you have a question to that, or you have a separate GB? Are you okay if these so Councillor Lane had a question, which is random, not random to you, just in GB, we don't usually do it, but you're happy to, sure GB, you're happy for this to continue on?
Yeah, happy to.
Yep, Councillor Lane, then Councillor Hall.
Thanks very much. So the use of alternate materials in pathways is something that I'm very keen on to save a few bob in my division, particularly for my parks, instead of having very expensive concrete footways. I'm pretty keen on this and to see where it goes, quite frankly. But the other thing is have we written to the new government to say LGIP is too rigid and we have a quota that the state requires us to meet and we need to use this money as fast as possible? I feel great sympathy for Councillor Heremiah in his bid to try and footpath his area. I don't know how much you've spent on footpaths. I'm sure it's an inordinate amount of your local infrastructure. But is there a way that we can write to the government to say, can you look at this funding and see whether or not we can access footpaths for a highly populated emerging area? And if not, and if he goes with the cheaper option, I really want in on that. Thank you.
Probably two questions in that, if I can respond to. The first one's in regards to the legit funding which council does collect. So council collects funding which is on a cap charge, which is the maximum that actually can be charged for the infrastructure, trunk infrastructure we need to provide across roads, water, and similar infrastructure. We are currently, I believe, just slightly over $30,000 per lot. Our modelling shows that that amount is significantly less than the amount that we actually need to do trunk infrastructure across.
So we've got $30,000 per property in local infrastructure money that we can charge. The average frontage, let's go 20 metres at $1,000 a lineal metre. Chewed it up before you've even put a pipe or a poop thing in.
The funding is across water, sewer, roads, and is less than the total cost that it will cost council to put in all the trunk infrastructure that we need. To that extent, council is making representation to the state around the fact that there is a deficit between those. I guess that makes it difficult for us to then, however, be writing to the state and asking, can we use the funding that we have collected for purposes other than, I guess, the ultimate trunk infrastructure that we actually need to put in, given that we've already identified that we believe that's insufficient for the obligations that rest with council.
Thanks, Director. You don't need to go further with that. If we've got $30,000 per property and a frontage is 20 metres and it's $1,000 a lineal metre for a footpath, we're burning through everything before we've even put a road or laid a pipe.
Yep.
So, all right then, thank you.
The other one which you asked about was the use of alternative materials. So certainly where we have done that at this point in time, it was where we were looking at areas where it would be interim before we could see an upgrade in the near future. If we talk about the location which Councillor Heremiah raised on Parkridge Road, where we were providing access to the school in an emergent situation, where we did that, we were quite clear that there won't be a long life in regards to that asset, and that as that asset actually will need to be reinstated or repurposed as we go along, that is something that we would be talking then about actually having to come back to the LIP program to get additional funding to maintain that.
And I appreciate that answer, but I see the Gold Coast with their beautiful pathways through their flood-prone parks and they managed to maintain it. Thank you.
Councillor, this is in relation to Councillor Heremiah's GB.
Yeah, so I do have a state school going into one of my areas in Homeview, and to this date, there's really been no thought from the state about connectivity of people traffic to that school. So as it stands, the footpath arrangement for that school, going to that school, is going to be 100% ratepayer funded. Couldn't even get the design work from the state for the school. I had to get the design work from the builder so that I could pass it on to council's footpath crew so they could see where to marry up the 100% ratepayer funded footpath will connect to the school. And we've got a lot of these issues because there seems to be some inconsistencies in state government's arrangement towards state school students as to how far a child needs to be in order to catch a bus service funded by the state government to their school. And unfortunately in Bar Scrub, especially in Windaroo, a lot of the students that live close by to that school actually have to walk either along the road or along a curbside that has no footpath to their school, which is really dangerous. There's been no state support towards getting footpath arrangement to that existing school either. So anything that's going to happen is going to happen through the ratepayer's pocket, 100% built by council. And as a similar situation to Councillor Jeremiah, there's not enough money in the pockets to fund it. So it's a really sad situation that the state's put us in, where it builds these schools but has no connectivity for the residents to actually get to them.
Councillor Hall, Councillor Bradley's been patiently waiting, so to me, you put your hand up, but thank you, Councillor Bradley, thank you for waiting.
Thank you, through the chair. I'm just curious, Mr. Riley, if you could just answer some questions, if possible, please. Is council part of the Southern Regional Roads and Transport Group?
Council is. We're part of the South Coast Southern Regional Roads Group, so there is a regional roads group that sit across all of the councils and they have varying sectors, and we're in the Southern Regional one, which is with Redlands and Gold Coast.
I'm on it.
Redlands and Gold Coast,
Yes.
okay. So how much does our council receive per year for like the state government's TIDS funding through that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the TIDS funding off the cuff is somewhere, I think, just over $3 million that comes to the regional roads group. That group then allocate that funding equally across the three councils.
Okay, so roughly about $1 million
About $1 million,
per council per year, okay. And are there any boundary roads with any other councils that have received funding through that source?
Council has very limited boundary roads with Gold Coast and with Redlands. Most of our networks set up that we don't share a direct boundary with those. So most of the TIDS funding that is actually utilised by council goes to our trunk road network upgrades.
Okay, thank you. And back in December, the Mayor stated that he would write to the Lord Mayor of Brisbane in relation to Rochdale Road, because we're in a stalemate position because we can't progress any further without some sort of agreement with Brisbane City Council. I haven't received a copy of the letter, but I'm curious if the Mayor could answer if he's written the letter yet.
Mr. Mayor, you'd like to respond?
Yep.
But yes, you're responding, or yes, you've written a letter?
Both.
Okay, can I have a copy of that letter, please?
I was just waiting for the Lord Mayor to respond so you can see the whole kit caboodle. And I contacted him personally to say, hey, could you expedite this? Because it's been a number of weeks now. And he said, the questions you've asked are complicated, so it'll take time to give you an answer.
Okay, well, I'd be curious what complicated questions have been asked.
I didn't think they were very complicated. It was like, when are you planning on building this? Do you know what the pressures are? Do you have any alternatives if this can't be built in the short term? They're not tricky questions in my view, but I don't understand Brisbane's system.
Yeah, I imagine they would be very tricky questions because Rochdale Road isn't on their LGIP. So, I would like to receive that. Thank you.
we have a meeting with the Southern Roads at 11 o'clock on Thursday this week. So if you'd like, we can bring something up if you want us to. No more GB? That brings the conclusion to the city infrastructure meeting dated 9th of February, 10th of February, concluded at 10:52 with Councillor Action Jackson to take over.